And we're live here on YouTube. I'd like to welcome those listening on Facebook, and also my buddy Rich. Rich, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Mike. Kind of hectic at work. Back half of the week with my coworker going out sick. So flying solo, but hung in there, and it's always nice to get those extra hours anyway. So
Yeah.
And how was your week, Mike?
It was a strange week this week, Rich.
Yeah.
First and foremost,
Okay.
Monday night we watched the Okoboji girls, or the Esterville girls played in Des Moines for the state tournament. We watched that match. Tuesday, and we'll leave that out. I'll leave my commentary of a similar situation to what you've dealt with out. Wednesday we had no school. Thursday we worked, and then Friday we took off today. We took off because we have a funeral to go to tomorrow. So
Okay.
So
Cool.
It's been a weird week, but I'm okay with it. I'm good with it.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, so
Always
what's
good.
So and we spent a lot of money today.
Spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our washer and dryer started. Our dryer started eating clothes, and our washer has been on its last leg for a while. So. Adulting things.
Yeah.
$1,500 for that, and then I bought a new toy for myself, and that was about $250, and then so it was an expensive day. But
Gotcha. Well, Mike, we're back together and back on the air.
Yeah.
Got a lot to talk about this week, a little bit. We got to go into the NASCAR corner to talk about Coda and Phoenix, and the Bears beefed up the offensive line this week.
Yeah, we got to talk about that.
What else we talking about, Mike?
We are division winners, Rich. We are we are making predictions, and we also are we are heading into spring esports and Masked Singer. All that and more, but Rich, what's it time to do?
Mike, why don't you go ahead and roll that intro?
Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa, this is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich.
Okay, Rich, we are back. By the way, you never caught that I said welcome those listening in from Facebook. So we forgot to welcome those in podcast land. I left that one for you, but you didn't catch it.
Okay.
No big deal.
Sorry.
No big deal. Okay, but before we do anything, speaking of Facebook and social media and all that stuff, we should talk about our poll question. We had a poll question last week.
We did.
We only had 3 voters.
But 3's enough, because we get a majority.
Yep.
With it being an odd number. So this week, Mike, our wintertime activities, even though with the late being in the late portion of winter, you really can't do these activities anymore. So
hey, we got like 5 inches of snow. You could go out and do either of these 2 activities this week.
Okay. We had a little bit of snow off and on, but it wasn't enough to stick. But it was our number 1 seed building a snowman versus the number 8 seed snowmobiling. I went with building a snowman. I've never been on a snowmobile, so I went with what I've done before.
Yeah, I like that. I think I voted for building a snowman, and so did Matt Johnson for our shout out for that. So you, me, Matt Johnson were the only 3 that voted. I actually prefer. I've never gotten to go snowmobiling. However, legitimately, I want to try it. But to me, it's a little different. I tend to be the guy, like, when I ride my motorcycle, generally it's because I enjoy riding motorcycles, but my real reason to do it is because, I get to go to work. I'm going to work. I'm going to, like, I like going to places on my motorcycle. Like, this summer, I'm going to take a trip to St. Louis on my motorcycle is the plan currently. And if I'm doing that, like, it's to get to the destination. The trip is the fun, but I like that I have an actual destination. Similarly, I look at snowmobiling as if I were going to be snowmobiling and had a snowmobile and did it regularly, I feel like I would want to be, like, riding to work or stuff like that.
Not just going out for a joyride?
Yeah.
Not knowing how far you're going to go or when you're going to decide to turn around and start heading home?
Yeah. Using it as an actual way to get around, as a device to get from point A to point B when, maybe taking the car is not the best way to go. So.
All right. So this week, Mike, which I will put up either tomorrow morning or when we get off air, depending on how late we go, will be the number 2 seed Making Snow Angels versus Skiing Snowboarding.
Okay.
The skiing, much like in the first round poll, skiing snowboarding is combined because we have limited spots. So you do both. You tend to do both of these in the same area at the ski resort. So that's why we chose to combine them. All right, you can find our polls over on Facebook at our Facebook page of Balls and Sticks. Mike and I tend to also share the post, and you can also find it on Fans of Balls and Sticks over on the Facebook. If you're watching, if you find our episodes here out in podcast land or on YouTube, the link to that page for Facebook is always in our show description. So check that out and make sure to vote. You will get a shout out if you participate in the poll.
Yeah.
Mike, do you see what's coming up next?
Is it a left turn, Rich?
It is a left-hand turn. And what's after that, Mike?
Is it another left-hand turn?
It is, Mike, and tell them why.
So we're heading into the NASCAR corner, presented by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated, Moline, Illinois. Check them out for all your sports memorabilia needs on 5th Avenue in Moline or on their eBay store. Once again, that is Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. Okay, Rich. This last week, we were at the Echo Park Automotive Grand Prix at COTA. So they had left and right turns last week. We saw Christopher Bell winning the race for a second week in a row.
It was a close finish, though.
It really was.
Really close.
Really was.
I thought Kyle Busch was going to run away. I thought Kyle Busch was going to get that win and finally snap that streak.
Yeah, I was
winless streak that he's on.
Is it terrible that for a second there, I legit was like cheering for Kyle Larson or for Kyle Busch to win?
I don't think so. I don't think it is anymore.
Okay.
He seems, since he's gone over to RCR, he seems to have gotten a little bit more humble. He isn't as brash or overconfident as he used to be with Joe Gibbs.
Yeah, I can see that. So I'm excited for it. I liked it. I'd like to see him do a little bit more. I don't like to admit it, but maybe I am cheering for Kyle Busch a little bit now. So,
okay.
Rich, you picked Ross Chastain. He finished 12th. But in the waning laps, him and Shane Van Gisbergen, in my pick, were duking it out. The race at the front of the race was so good that they didn't show it, but you could see the flip-flopping 2, 3, 4 times in a lap where Ross Chastain and Shane Van Gisbergen were trading off spots for much of, if not almost all of, the last 5 to 10 laps. So it was great to see.
Yep, but your guy came out on top as Shane Van Gisbergen, finished 6th.
Yeah.
All right, Mike. So that gives you a 2-1 lead going into Phoenix,
Yep.
where the championship race will be held later on in the fall. Mike, who's your pick to win at the spring race?
How do you bet against a guy that knows how to win at this track? In Ryan Blaney.
I fully agree. That's the guy I wanted to pick, and I was almost starting to pencil him in on the outline before we even started talking tonight, but then I realized that you had the advantage, so I couldn't fill in my pick before we started talking.
I'm glad you didn't, because I would have. So, in all honesty, I could have picked, and Christopher Bell, not only is he hot, but he's really good at this track.
He does have some good finishes at Phoenix as well.
But I think the guy you picked is really good too. Those are my top 3 drivers, and I went with my top, and I went with Ryan Blaney.
All right, so yeah, I'm going to go with Kyle Larson. I typically don't like Kyle Larson. Right now he seems like, because he's won so many races right now, and it seems like the announcers tend to favor him being the top Hendrick driver. But really, the other reason why I really don't like Kyle Larson, it's kind of very much a silly reason, it's because his paint scheme is the same every single week. It's a silly reason, but I like going on the NASCAR app every Wednesday.
Is that why you hate? Denny Hamlin? Because
Denny Hamlin rotates
he had
pretty well.
Yeah, but for 20 years he had one main sponsor.
FedEx.
You found the FedEx car and you knew who was driving it.
But at least the FedEx, the paint design on it changed from week to week.
Yeah.
It wasn't always a standard, this is what it is every single week.
Sure.
With HendrickCars.com, it's always that red, white, and blue in it. The scheme of it, and the funny part is Ross Chastain, my favorite driver, is Busch Light. But the design of the car, even when they have Busch Light as the primary sponsor, it changes from week to week.
Yeah, I can understand what you're saying there. I'm not mad at it, but I think that's a great pick. Rich, so this is the first week of the year, and as we've talked about it, there are very few races that will be on a broadcast television network. But this is the first race where we move over to FS1.
That's right, because Fox is valuing IndyCar races and the UFL over NASCAR.
Yeah. I wonder if that's going to bite them in there. I think the problem is, not the problem. The truth is that NASCAR fans will follow. Whereas, and NASCAR fans, old school NASCAR fans, are used to, you had to find where it was going to be, and it was going to be, sometimes it's on an obscure channel, sometimes it's going to be on a channel that you, it's going to be on Turner, or it's going to be on, you had to search and destroy to find it, and it's not always the case. So,
yeah, but good for the Xfinity series though, of getting a deal with the CW, a TV, a network that you pick up over the air on an antenna.
Yeah,
you don't even necessarily have to have a cable subscription to watch the Xfinity series every single week.
So you're gonna watch Xfinity more?
I might.
Yeah, I support that they do that, and so I like it. Yeah.
All right, Mike. So anything else with the now? Something that I just saw, the level 2 penalty for Chase Briscoe from Daytona got overturned.
Yep, that did happen. And so he's back in the he is now in the positive instead of, because he was 75 points to the negative, or 74 points to the negative. He's now plus 26 on the season. So, he actually might be able to do something this season, and he gets the points, the 10 points for the playoff points or whatever that is, and all. He gets all the playoff points, everything back. So, yeah, that's good for him. One thing that I will also mention is that in the long saga of the charter system, NASCAR is suing Michael Jordan and 2311, Michael Jordan's business manager, and the business manager is directly named. And then
are they going after Front Row Motorsports?
I think Front Row is named, but they are very much going after them, essentially saying that they were the ones that were engaging in anti-competitive because they were trying to use collective bargaining, and that is that's actually anti-competitive.
Interesting. I did not see that, actually.
If that were to get, there are crazy things happening in this world. We're not gonna get into the politics side of it, but if that happens in NASCAR, could that cause problems for the other collective bargainings that we see in major sports?
Only because this is the first that I'm hearing of it. I'm going to go with an I don't know.
Okay. I would agree. I actually think it's and maybe it's come back to it. But in theory, if NASCAR can say that you're not actually, if NASCAR can prove that through attempting to do competitive or group negotiations or collective bargaining, that 2311 and the business manager for Michael Jordan and all of those things, in theory, if they can get it that it is agreed that is anti-competitive, you could say, well, all collective bargaining is anti-competitive. I don't know that I like that, but that's kind of the world we live in right now. So, okay, that's all I had really for it. But that hit this week. I don't think. I mean, honestly, I'm not a lawyer. I don't pretend to be one. I don't even play one on TV. But I don't think it holds much merit after watching some videos on it and guys that are much closer to it than I am. But just something to put out. Okay.
Fair enough. All right, Mike. So you can catch the Shriners Children's Hospital 500 from Phoenix over on FS1. I believe it's a 3:30 start time, Central Time. And as always, this has been the NASCAR Corner, presented by Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated, Moline, Illinois, and you can also find them on the eBay.
Yep.
Triple I Sports Cards Incorporated. All right, Mike, we're going to keep making left-hand turns, but we're going to go to the baseball diamond.
Yeah.
As we're just about halfway through spring training for the Cubbies. They got maybe about a week and a half before the regular season starts when they fly out to Japan for a brief 2-game series with the Dodgers, but that's next week's discussion. This week, Mike, we are putting in and putting on air who we think is going to win every single division, as well as who we think our 3 wild card teams will be.
Yeah.
And then in 2 weeks, we'll give you our NLCS and ALCS matchups, and then in 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, we'll be giving you who the Dodgers will be beating in the World Series. Let's just be honest. It's probably going to be we're both probably going to be picking the Dodgers.
Yeah, I think that's a fairly valid, probably accurate statement there. But there's stuff to talk about in the rest of it, and we'll get there when we get there. With that, Rich, let's talk baseball. So, Rich, I'm gonna ask you. I'll do it this time.
Okay.
and then you make your prediction. We've already done this on air, so we're both prepared.
Yep.
In the AL East, who do you got?
Right. I got to take the Yankees. This is kind of a division where it's the Yankees division to lose. I like the offseason moves that they made. Yes, they lost Juan Soto, one of the best players in the game, but I like that they used the money that they would have paid Soto to stay.
Yeah.
And they brought in Cody Bellinger and Max Fried, and they traded for Devin Williams. So I think the team got slightly better, even though it lost probably one of the best players in baseball.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And the way this team is playing right now and all of that stuff, you're going to be hard-pressed for me to argue with you against that. So,
yeah, I mean, I wish they would have found a way to bring my favorite player, Anthony Rizzo, back into the fold, but I guess they're thinking that Paul Goldschmidt is a better alternative.
Yeah.
To man first base for the Bronx.
And I mean, does Paul Goldschmidt's former team make you like him a little less? Probably. But
Rizzo's my guy, so
I
agree. I'm really surprised that he's still a free agent. I'd love to see him back on the Cubs, but in all reality, there just isn't a spot for him on the Cubs roster with the way it's currently constructed.
Yeah, and are you surprised that nobody's picked him up?
I kind of am, but I think it's tough because I mean ESPN put out a really good article that I enjoyed reading this week. That's kind of like talked about the decline of first base as an overall position, as now it's seeming like everybody wants to find an athletic, power hitting like shortstop or second baseman, and people you don't see too many guys coming up in the minors as kind of special. The article kind of summarized it as, I mean, first base has become like a fallback position for a lot of players, where before it was a position that somebody would specialize in, like at the college or in the minor league levels, and come up, and now it's just seeming to be a fallback position for somebody that's maybe not athletic enough to play a premium position. I mean, but at the same time, I mean, who has holes at first base right now? Probably not contending teams that somebody like Anthony Rizzo would want to play for.
Yeah,
because in a way he's always played for a winning team. The Padres were good when he was coming up through the system. The Cubbies, while they went through a rebuilding process, he was a part of that core, and then they trade him to the Yankees.
Yeah,
and the Yankees are always good.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. So the question is where's there a hole? I can agree that there's not a lot of places for him to go. But does that mean he has to take less to play? Probably. I mean, is it about playing, or is it about the money? And at this point, the hard part is his representation is going.
He's not a Scott Boras client.
I thought he was.
No, he's not a Scott Boras guy. But the thing that kind of hurts Anthony Rizzo is he can only play first base and DH. He's not going to be a guy that you can say, all right, we need an outfielder today. I'm sorry, make it work. Get out there and don't embarrass yourself or anybody else. At his age, it's first base or it's DH. And that's with the way the rosters are being constructed, with less bench players, so you can have more people out in your bullpen. If you got a guy that can only play those two positions, that's kind of limiting what you can have on your bench.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, guys that is a problem a problem, like you said. The single position players are going the way of the dodo, and so it makes it hard to get really excited about that. If that makes it so, yeah. I can see that as a problem. So,
all right, Mike. The American League Central.
wow, did we only just do one?
Yeah, we've only got through one.
Oh, okay.
I actually took us down a rabbit hole in a side
Yeah.
conversation for once.
Yeah. The Royals.
Okay. I don't mind the pick. I think they're a team that's probably built on getting on base and having a lead and getting it into their bullpen. And they kind of made a surprise playoff run last year, so I don't mind the pick. But I'm going to go with the team that does that better than the Royals and have the lead when we get to the 7th inning so we can turn it over to our bullpen, and that's the Cleveland Guardians. Every single year we come back and say, we're going to pick somebody different. The Tigers or the Twins or the Royals. And what ends up happening every single year by August or September, the Guardians have taken that division and they don't look back.
So we'll get there when we talk about our wild cards, but the team that is the opposite of that, to me, feels like the Twins. The team that every year comes up and they look great, and you are thinking, man, this is going to be their year. And legitimately, I think a lot of times, like, you could make arguments that they should be making huge runs, and they tend to fall off, and I don't understand why all the time.
All right. Going out to the American League West, Mike, I'm going with the Texas Rangers.
Okay.
Not quite. At this point, I think with the American League West, it's a process of elimination. For me, I think the Houston lost a lot by trading Kyle Tucker to the Cubs, and their pitching staff tends to always, one of their main starters tends to get injured. So while I'm not that confident with the Rangers, I'm going to go with them instead.
Okay. And I can get behind that. I can understand that one. You know what? I can't pick the team that I hate to win it, but I actually feel confident in the Rangers, and that's who I'm going with.
All right, my 3 wild card teams, Mike. I'm going to go with the 2 teams that made the playoffs that nobody saw coming as making the playoffs, and I'm going to go the Royals and the Tigers. I think they continue the progress that they made, and they make it. And I'm going to go with the team that's missed the playoffs the past couple of years, but I like the offseason additions that they made in bringing in Alex Bregman and Garrett Crochet, and I'm going to go with the Red Sox.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of hedge my bets in that I'm going to say that the Twins and the Asterix will make the playoffs. And then this is my out of left field pick. And I do it every year. I feel the Tigers. Watch out for the Tigers this year.
I don't think the Tigers are really an outside of the box, out of left field pick. They made the playoffs last year.
Yeah, but do you trust it?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Okay.
I think I know we didn't just. We'll circle back.
Yeah.
I'll give you time to maybe spin it around, but maybe a sleeper team, a team maybe to watch. Maybe they could make the playoffs, but we weren't confident enough to put them into the playoffs.
Yeah.
But we'll circle back to that once we talk about the American League with the National League. So probably the easiest division to pick here is the National League West.
Whoa. I think the Central's pretty easy to pick this time.
Not as simple as the West, though.
Oh no, I agree. Not as simple. The easiest.
Not as simple as the West.
If you pick anybody but the Dodgers to win the West, I want whatever you're smoking because that's ridiculous. So, yeah, no, that's crazy. How about the Central then?
I'm going with the Cubs, but there's a part of me that almost like, you know what? We were pretty darn confident in drinking the Kool-Aid last year.
Yeah.
And it took them all the way to September. Late August, early September, mid-September before they got up to even second place in the division. Let alone, and they were nowhere close to challenging the Brewers for the division, but I like the additions that they've made. They put a conscious effort into improving the bullpen. They brought in Kyle Tucker. I'm still kind of scratching my head on who's going to play third base and who's playing third base. But overall, I like the Cubs, so I'm going to give them the division.
You know what? I actually, I think the Cubs. I feel as confident this year as I was unconfident last year that the Cubs would make the playoffs. Still put them in, but man, they look great this year, and they looked good mid-season, September on. Definitely, and when they were healthy at the beginning of in the middle part of the year, early middle part, they looked really good. Then they went on a terrible losing streak for a long time there, and don't get me wrong, they looked terrible. But then coming back, and then what they've done in the offseason, to me screams way more than anything else. And what they've done in the offseason, I think they've done enough.
Okay. And Mike, in my opinion, the hardest division in the National League to pick, the National League East.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right, and it's why I'm picking the Braves.
Dude.
But my confidence level in it is quite low.
All right. I'm going with the Phillies. I like their pitching a lot better than the Braves, and I don't. If there was a firm time frame, and when Ronald Acuna Jr. and Spencer Strader were coming back, I'd feel a little bit more comfortable with taking the Braves in the division. But with no timetable, when the MVP and the Cy Young Award winner that they have on their team are coming back, they're gonna have to tread water and hope that the replacement players that they have for those two superstars can do well enough until they get those guys back. So for that reason, I'm going with the Phillies.
Yep, I can 100% understand it. And in fact, I put the Phillies in my number one wild card spot. And then number two are the Mets.
Okay.
I'll go down the rabbit hole just for 2 seconds.
Okay.
Just me putting the Mets in. The Mets are the team that I think they'll make the playoffs. But again, like last year, they looked like they should be great, and they limped their way into the playoffs. Barely.
But they still made it. I think they made it to the American League, to the National League Championship Series.
Yeah, but they arrived in the playoffs looking like just looking.
If I remember right, yeah, by all means, if I remember correctly, they might have limped their way into the playoffs, but once they got there, they turned it back around. They flipped the light switch, and they got hot at the right time.
That 100% is an accurate statement, and I do not deny that, and I agree that is one of the reasons why. Are they playing that game? Are they being that team that says, we just got to make it in, and after that, we'll show you what we got?
Okay. And who's your final wild card team, Mike?
The Brewers.
Okay. I like that pick of the Brewers. My three wild card teams, I went with the Mets. I think they got one of the best players in baseball to man right field for him in Juan Soto. They brought back Pete Alonso. But the reason I didn't give him the division is because I'm not confident with that starting pitching. There's no true ace on that team. There's a lot of twos, maybe 2 twos, and some threes. But you need an ace, and they don't have that yet. But they do have an ownership. They do have an owner that likes to spend his money, as they run one of the highest payrolls. So I think if there's a guy that's available at the trade deadline, they'll go and get him.
Yep.
My other 2 wild card teams, I agreed with you on the Brewers.
Okay.
Before I changed it, and I took the Braves off because of the injury concerns with Acuna and Strader. And my other wild card team is the Diamondbacks.
Okay.
They're a team that scored a lot of runs last year.
Yeah.
I think I read somewhere they scored the 4th most runs last year, and they improved their starting rotation by bringing in Corbin Burns.
Yeah,
So,
and I can see
I like that.
I actually can see that as a good pick. I think they are a team that really does have great potential to do great things. It's hard when you're in that division to though.
you are gonna have to face the Dodgers a lot. You're gonna have to face the Dodgers a lot more than everybody else.
Yeah.
But you also get a lot more games against the Colorado Rockies, which don't have it, and the Padres Padres have a lot of injury concerns.
Yeah. So I can see that as a team that, we're gonna lose 60% of our games against the Dodgers, but we're gonna win
everybody else.
We're gonna win 80% of the games against the Rockies, and we're gonna win 70% of the game, 60 to 70% of the games against the Padres, depending on injury. But that's the problem. If injuries if they A, get healthy, and B, don't have the injuries that tend to plague them, the Padres are a good team.
They are
And
a good team.
That's the scariest part. If the Padres don't have issues with injury and can get healthy, they're one of those teams that you could almost make an argument for making the playoffs.
Yeah, I was tempted to put them in, but too many years I was picking them as, what, I want to pick somebody different. Padres to go to the World Series, and then they fall flat and they bow out in the first round.
Yep. No, I totally agree, and that to me is the worrying part. But I still think that's why I don't know that I could pick a second team from the West. Because
and that's fair.
You're going to get beat up so bad by the Dodgers. Can you make that up? You can make most of it up with the Rockies, but can you make the other bit up that you would need to against the Padres there, or against the Diamondbacks? And I don't know that that's the way that's going to go. Okay, Rich, with that, sorry, I got to get back to this screen here. Any other baseball talk that you want to do before we head into the NFL? And huge news.
Not really. So next week when we're talking baseball, we're going to be giving our predictions for the first 2 Cubs regular season games as they get out to Japan to play the Dodgers.
Yep.
On the 17th and 18th.
Yeah.
Yeah, 17th and 18th. So we'll make our predictions for the 2-game series because those will happen when we were not on the air.
Yep.
And then we'll dive back into predictions on the 21st and 22nd.
Okay.
All right, but Mike, let's go over to the gridiron.
Yep.
And the Bears made some solid moves to improve the interior of the offensive line as they acquired Jonah Jackson from the Rams and Pro Bowler Joe Thuney from the Chiefs.
Yeah, so last week we were talking, And I said they need to do everything they can to shore up that offensive line. I think they can now look. I officially think they can look at. They can start. They can look at potentially looking at wide receivers in the draft now.
I still don't think they need a wide receiver.
Or running back.
Still don't think they need a run back. I would, right now, depending on what they decide to do with free agency, I would say not knowing nothing of what they'll do in free agency, I would say that the draft needs to be a defensive lineman, an edge rusher to play opposite Sweat.
Yeah, that's true. I more what I'm saying. I guess I misspoke. What I should have said is picks. You have opened up your need to pick however many picks we had, all just straight offensive linemen. These two guys shore up huge amounts of like. This isn't a little boy with his finger in the dike. This is you built a new dike. You're not finished, but you got a solid foundation built.
I agree. I think the commentary or the comments I was reading on Jonah Jackson was kind of like a lot of people were scratching their head on this guy because they thought, well, why would you trade a 6th-round pick to a guy that the Rams are probably going to release, and you could have gotten him for free? But in my eyes, I guess it's a 6th-round pick. Are you going to find a guy? Are you going to find a guy like that in the 6th round? No. And then if you're waiting for him to get released, then you're competing with 31 other teams for his services.
Yep. This way,
you know, the Joe Tooney trade I like.
I
really like the Joe Tooney trade.
Tooney trade. That to me, man, that's huge. That's the one that has me the most excited this week about anything. Makes me truly feel confident that the Bears can do something, as in move into. They can. That was the one that I'm like, okay, we can draft things other than just offensive linemen in this draft. So.
Okay, or at least your early round picks. I think with the additions that they've made with Jackson and Tooney, I think that it's safe to say that you don't necessarily have to zero in on an offensive lineman with the 1st round.
Nope, I agree. Yeah, I think
at this point you could wait until the 2nd round.
Yep.
To get a lineman.
Yep. So.
All right, Mike. So we'll probably have more NFL news to talk about next week, as Monday the free agent signing period begins. So we could have a lot of news that comes out with the Bears, with what the Bears have done. I really didn't see anything of noteworthy where they had to release anybody. So I guess that's a little bit of a win, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's next week. All right, Mike. So before we start talking about esports, let's go ahead and give a spoiler alert. After Mike gives us a recap of what's going on with his esports team, we will be talking The Masked Singer. If you haven't seen The Masked Singer yet and you haven't watched the episode yet, feel free to tune out, put us on mute, or just pause us and pick up the show to hear our comments about The Masked Singer after you've had a chance to watch it. But before we get into that, Mike, if they're listening to us in podcast land and would like to interact with the show and watch the live video, or basically see the video of the show, where can they find that?
You can find it on youtube.com/@ballsandsticks.
All right, Mike, and if they're watching us here on YouTube, but they just want the audio version, because maybe that's a little easier to sync up and queue up and listen to us more in a podcast form. Where can they find the podcast?
Anywhere where you get your regular podcasts. Making sure that I actually get them uploaded, which I need to do. I'm a ways behind, but I got some time tonight, so maybe I'll get that done tonight, and then
And finally, Mike, tell them where they can find our weekly.
How about you
poll
tell them,
questions.
Rich?
Fine.
You're the one that.
Fine.
You're the one that posts the poll questions, Rich.
I do.
Where do you
I
post
am
them
the
at?
one that posts them. So, Mike, you can find our poll questions on Facebook at Fans of Balls and Sticks. Balls and Sticks. And if you look up Mikey Hart or Rich W. Hendricks, you can also find the poll questions there. And whether you're watching us on YouTube or listening to us out in the podcast land, the link to our Facebook page is in the show description. So, Mike, what is going on in esports?
We had a coaches meeting, and we don't get to play for 2 weeks. Week 0 starts this upcoming week. Week 1, we're on spring break, and so we were going to try to play this upcoming week. We had said, hey, we're on spring break. Do you mind doing it a week early? Well, Clear Lake is on spring break this upcoming week, so it's going to be the 2 weeks out. So we'll play 2 matches in 2 days. I think we'll be fine, but we'll see.
Well, you're still having practice and scrimmages, right?
Yep.
Okay, and at least with it also being on, it's Mario Kart, so at least you're using the Switch platform. You could always encourage people to get on or probably even host matches online to see what kids are online and see if they'd want to play as well.
So with that, Rich, let's head over to the Masked Singer. Rich, this week we saw Group B come in. Group B was great. I think there are 3 solid contenders from Group 3. I think one is a clear finals contender. The other 2 that I said are contenders, I think they're good and they have the ability. But we had 2 dogs in this game in this week, and yeah, that's all I gotta say.
Yeah. So before we get in and talking about who went home, when it's the initial night of a group, we always have the 2 questions that we always have the one additional question, other than the one that they ask on the show, of saying, well, who was your favorite performance of the night? Not the best performance, not the worst performance. Who was your favorite performance? But before we do that, Mike, it was a new group. What was your favorite costume?
Man, mine. I'm not stealing yours because you said it first earlier. I really enjoyed the costume of the Space Ranger. I really did.
Okay.
I thought it was a cool looking costume. I thought the concept, it brings in some Steve Miller Band vibes, like at least reflections. We might not say vibes, but reflections at least. So it's a great costume, great concept. We'll get to how the singer did in a minute.
Okay. Well, my favorite one was the Griffin.
Yeah.
Very big. I liked the Griffin costume.
Yep.
And I guess the one thing that I'm really liking about this season so far is that the panel is utilizing Nick to say, hey, that looks like something on his costume, or you're closer to him. Can you see something on his costume that maybe we can't see from all the way up here?
You mean the script writers are paying better, are writing the script in a way that allows them to talk about it?
I guess, yeah. So, I mean, that was evident with, like, the Space Ranger, to where, like, they pointed out, hey, that looks like something on his belt buckle. Nick, what's his belt buckle? Describe that belt buckle for us.
Yeah.
That's something new to this season.
Yep.
That's been kind of neat. And I think even when they've unveiled somebody, they point out, you should have seen that, right there on my costume. It was right there. There was a clue right there on my costume.
Yep.
So that's kind of been neat this year.
So I like that
season.
too, and I do like that they're incorporating that better. There's been ones that are like, that give homage to other people to kind of give you a hint that they're connected to so and so, and that, yeah, that's fine. But this is like direct clues, which I've liked as well. So, Rich, who was your favorite performer of the night?
My favorite performer of the night was the Pearl.
Okay.
I felt it was kind of odd to hear her talking about tonight. I'm going to be doing a Whitney Houston song. Wish me luck, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it justice. And she did really well.
She had me and my wife completely faked out. We thought, oh gosh, this is going to be terrible. This might be the reason why somebody else doesn't go home. And it turned out not to be. She actually sang amazingly well. I agree. She had the best vocal performance of the night. My favorite overall performance though was Boogie Woogie.
I did like Boogie Woogie.
I love that song. I think he did a good job with it. But you spoke of Griffin. So my 3 contenders are Boogie Woogie, Griffin, and Pearl.
Okay.
The other 2, they did 2 songs that I am in love with. One of them is "Rewrite the Stars," which is Griffin's song, and then the other one is I believe in a thing called "Love." Those are, to me, some great songs and have deep sentimental value to those. So I was really thrilled to hear both of them. But man, Bad Blood by Space Ranger. By the way, it's called Space Ranger, not Cowboy, I guess. And then The Bat.
Singing a Sabrina Carpenter pop song.
Yeah, I don't know who Sabrina Carpenter is, but sure. I said, well, we know who should go home today, to Danielle when I heard Space Ranger, and she's like, we've only heard 2 people. I'm like, as bad
but
as that
it's always really obvious the first night on who's gonna go home.
And so I'm like, yeah. And then Griffin sang, I'm like, his vocals were better than Space Ranger. And then Bat sang, and I'm like, it wasn't great, but she was better than Space Ranger. And then Pearl sang, and I'm like,
nope.
This Pearl deserves. Pearl will be in the finals. Pearl will be in the finals if they continue with they're taking 2 from each group. Pearl will be in the finals. She will make
She'll make the lucky 6.
The lucky 6. She will definitely make the lucky 6. I will put that on everything. I think as of right now, that song, that one performance is the best single performance we've heard throughout the entirety of this season. Now, does that mean?
Yeah, I'll give you that.
She'll continue that? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But we'll see how it goes. If she continues in that fashion, she's unstoppable. If she doesn't, well, we know that she has one great song, and I would go to a concert just to hear her sing that one song, by the way.
All right, Mike, who was the Bat who went home?
Yeah, the Bat went home. Why did the Bat?
Home?
Why would the? Did it make sense to you that the Bat went home?
I thought they both had elements of a less than great performance. So they both kind of had periods of maybe tone depth or pitch issues.
Yep.
But I think a little bit with the Space Ranger, he kind of rebounded at the end. He didn't start off very, very well.
So,
and I don't think I think you mentioned it before.
I mentioned it when we were talking. So.
Yeah, regardless of the outcome, either the Space Ranger or the Bat, whichever one went home tonight, or for me tonight, because we didn't watch it until later tonight, they weren't going to make it to week 3.
Yeah. So the Bat did go home. It was, let me find her name again. Somebody from Vanderpump. I don't even know what the Vanderpump Rules. I don't know what that show is. Sheena Shea. Yeah, I think they got it wrong. The Space Ranger was definitely the worst, but I would 100%. She would not have gone past next week, which kind of sucks. So, now, Rich, I have an assignment for you.
Okay.
If we get to it, I want you to pick your costume and to come up with one clue you would give if you were in The Masked Singer.
My costume. Okay.
What would you
costume.
be? I know mine. And it's actually would be a clue, but I know what mine would be. We'll do that next week. Rich, do you have any shout-outs for the week?
I do, but I think it overlaps with yours, and you're closer with this individual, so I will defer to you.
What is this week?
Do I need to take it?
Oh yeah, Perry turned. It's Perry's birthday. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, Perry's birthday. Let's go! Happy birthday, Perry. Yeah. I forgot that was. Is that today?
It is today.
Oh man,
What?
I need to call him. Yeah, happy birthday, Perry. So.
All right. So that is the show this week. Make sure to tune in next week and like, comment, and subscribe. No matter whether you're listening on podcast land or watching in YouTube.
Yep.
Help us with the algorithm. Like, comment, and subscribe. Mike, what do we got to do now, buddy?
Go ahead and roll the outro. The button I hit.
Broadcasting live from somewhere in Iowa. This is Balls and Sticks, the podcast, with your hosts, Mike and Rich.